Howdy, compelled unbeliever here. Today we're going to talk about what is formally known as the Criterion of Double Dissimilarity, or informally known as the Criterion of Dissimilarity. I would like to know what you think about the Criterion of Dissimilarity in the comments below. If you would like to see more videos on Bible scholarship, please like and subscribe and hit that bell so you get notifications of upcoming videos. The Criterion of Dissimilarity is a tool used by Bible scholars to determine what Jesus may have actually said. It is a great example of the extremes that people will go to in the absence of evidence to create a sense of validity for the unknown. It could not be more diluted. It just got real.
Oh, wow.
The Criterion of Dissimilarity simply states that if the words attributed to Jesus in the New Testament are dissimilar to the Jews or the early Christians, then they are likely to be the words of the rabbi, or else they would not have been preserved by early Christians. In other words, it singles out things that early Christians would not want to say about Jesus and then postulates that they are probably accurate. The Criterion of Dissimilarity surmises that there are three possible sources of the teachings of Jesus. That is, Old Testament stories, early Christian exaggeration, and authentic historical teachings of Jesus. This does not take into account other possible sources. There are major problems with this idea as its foundation is very weak at best. First, we'll look at some of the common criticisms and then we'll get into my own. The first two are pretty obvious. Whether Jesus was historical or mythical, he is said to be Jewish, so his teachings should fall in line with Jewish teachings. Second, Christianity is supposed to have been founded upon the teachings of Jesus. One would expect his followers to actually agree with him. My criticism is that if an interloper had introduced sayings that were dissimilar or different from Jewish writings or Christian embellishments, we simply could not tell the difference from the early sayings of the rabbi himself. There were many Jewish sects at the time of Jesus. There were more Gnostic sects of Christianity than there were sects of Christianity that became the Orthodox Christianity we know today. There were those that believed that Jesus became God at baptism. There were others that believed that Jesus was always God. There were those that believed that Jesus was a human being adopted by God. We see in the book of Judas that there were those that believed that Judas was the most trusted and beloved disciple, and others that believed that Judas was a betrayer. Some thought that Satan was a true Messiah and Jesus was sent to deceive. There was no standardized belief system from the Jewish sects or the Jewish messianic sects that became Christianity that we know today. Anything that we deemed as different from early Christian beliefs would likely align with beliefs of many sects. If we as historians attempt to define what early Christianities would not like to have preserved, we as historians redefine their beliefs according to our modern understanding and bias. Here are some cases that the Criterion of Dissimilarity are used. It was common in the Baptist cults that the one doing the baptizing was considered spiritually superior to the one being baptized. In the New Testament, it is written that Jesus was actually baptized by John, his cousin. Hence, it is surmised that early Christians would not want to have included that in their early writings. There could have been other motives, such as establishing that Jesus was in fact a human being, as the earliest gospel seems to indicate. They may have also wanted to establish that Jesus was actually far superior to John the Baptist, as in they put it on the lips of John the Baptist himself that he felt that Jesus should be actually baptizing him. thus establishing the superiority of Jesus as the leader of the Baptist cult. There are arguments that only criminals were crucified and that this would have been very difficult for early Christians. Therefore, Jesus must have been crucified. The Christian cult was competing with many other dying and rising messiahs and suffering messiahs. So it actually would be expected that Jesus would be a suffering Messiah. The betrayal of Judas is often showcased as how the criterion of dissimilarity can show what may have actually happened. The argument here is that if it did not actually happen, that it would have been embarrassing, which is more of an argument of incredulity or argument of embarrassment. Therefore, they would not have wanted to include it in their narrative. There are multiple problems with this assertion, however. First of all, the book of Judas actually paints Judas as a hero. He was portrayed as the only one that Jesus could trust in handing him over in order to fulfill the prophecy. In addition, the authors of the Gospels were followers of Pauline doctrine and appear to have taken every opportunity that they could in order to undermine the authority of the 12 disciples in order to establish Paul's doctrine as the correct doctrine. The criterion of dissimilarity can in no way be taken seriously. The chances of determining what early Christians would want to say about their Messiah would be like trying to determine what Americans would not want to say about American football. Could we actually determine what is true about the sport by determining what Americans would not want to say about it? How would we know what they wouldn't want to say? How would we know that we got the right they? Is there a right they? The early Jewish and Christian sects were just as varied in opinions as Americans are today. It's just a book.